Spring Black Friday is on at the Home Depot. Save on grills and patio sets that will be sure to bring your hosting game up a notch. Fire up your feast with help from the Home Depot and save on grills. Like the Next Grill 4-burner propane gas grill was $249, now in special buy for $199. Or give everyone the best seat in the yard with the Hampton Bay Mayfield Park 4-piece conversation set for only $399. Save on grills and patio sets with low prices guaranteed during Spring Black Friday only at the Home Depot. Now through April 22nd, while supplies last. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from okay to very high. Know your sleep score with Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
K-pop Demon Hunters Haja Boys Breakfast Meal and Huntrix Meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Last night, you spent 2 hours deciding what to wear to the party. This morning, it'll take you 2 minutes to list it on Depop and make your money back. Just grab your phone, snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. The sheer dress and platform heels you'll never wear again? There's a birthday girl searching for them right now. Your one-and-done look is about to pay for your next night out. Or at least the ride home. Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 233 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can give me a follow on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Saturday morning spread. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark, how are you doing this morning?
Muted, off to a good start. It's highlighter season, Shane. I got the highlighters out. Made a trip to Target. I had to get a couple different color highlighters to color code my notes here. It's officially draft season.
It is officially draft season. Also, I have no idea what's going on with my throat this morning, but I'm going to try not to clear my throat aggressively into the mic too many times. But we are here to conclude our pre-draft coverage. We have covered every position group in the NFL draft except for one. It's one that we know that the Eagles love. It is the offensive line. And so today, we are going to be ranking our top 10 offensive line prospects in the 2026 NFL draft. If there is any position that you want to know about, we've covered them all. We started out with quarterback, then tight end, then we flipped over to the defensive side of the ball before coming back to offense. So we are putting a bow on our positional rankings this morning with our top 10 offensive line. You can go check out any of those others. You can go check them out after the draft and see what we thought about whomever the Eagles select at the beginning, before they were actually drafted. You know, sometimes people see guys with rose-colored glasses once they're drafted by their team. Our thoughts on these guys are out there before the Eagles selected any of them, and you can go check those out. Not that we won't be talking about them after the draft as well. Already got Brennan chiming in the chat here that he's on a road trip. Perfect timing. That's perfect time to listen to some offensive line talk. So we are going to dive into it here. Just one brief programming note. We choose to cover offensive line together because a lot of times there's guys that played tackle in college that are going to kick into the interior, and we'll kind of let you know where we see some of these guys projecting to. And obviously NFL teams can see it a little differently, but that's why we tend to stack our offensive linemen together. So without any further ado, because we are covering 10, let's dive into our top 10 offensive linemen. We'll start off with a guy that I have number one. Mark has him at number 2. It is Spencer Fano out of Utah. So Fano is a 4-star recruit who committed to Utah, where he was a 3-year starter. In 2023, he started at left tackle. In 2024 and 2025, he started at right tackle for the Utes, and he was an All-American in 2025. Athletic bloodlines in his family. He's got 4 uncles who played in the NFL. He's got a cousin who was a UDFA that played for the Broncos last season, and he also has a younger brother who's a 4-star offensive tackle recruit. So
he's in the draft right now.
Okay, there you go.
He has a brother, Logan, who's probably going to be like a 5th or 6th rounder in the draft this year.
There you go. So, lots of athletic background there to pull from. He is 6'5", 311 pounds. That's 45th and 41st percentile, respectively. 32 and an 1/8 inch arms, which is 3rd percentile arm length. He had a 96th percentile 40 time, a 93rd percentile 3-cone time. He's about 21 and a half years old. In 2025, he had a 99.3 pass block efficiency grade, and he had 5 penalties. I think he obviously, you can tell from his testing, he's a fluid mover. Really good athleticism. He gains depth in pass protection to cut off wide 9 aligned rushers really easily. He's got a solid punch as a pass blocker, uses those hands independently to disrupt pass rushes. He's effective as a puller in the run game, where he'll use his athleticism to get out to the second level and bury linebackers and defensive backs. Plays with good contact balance and a bit of a mean streak. He's not just a finesse player. He's really durable. He played 37 straight games in college, but I mean, you look at the spider chart and you know where I'm going to go with the first negative. It's that arm length. His arms are so short. Narrow shoulders, really short arms. He struggles to anchor against power rushers. He may struggle to manhandle NFL players in the run game too. And longer defenders can take advantage of their reach advantage to get into his frame, and then they walk him backwards. He's got a hard time re-anchoring. So there's some concerns there. There's some chatter that maybe he should be an offensive guard at his arm length and some of those things, and that's certainly in play. I feel like that's in play for a lot of these tackles this year. I gave him a first-round grade. I did put him as a right tackle for now. I think he's one of those guys that if you draft him in the first round, you're probably drafting him to try him at tackle, but you probably need to be prepared for the chance that he might not be able to cut it at right tackle, and you might have to kick him inside to a position he's never played, where it is going to be all projection, and that can always be difficult with these guys. So first round grade for Spencer Fano from me, just some positional ambiguity there.
Yeah, you know me, I'm usually always someone who's more willing to try guys out at tackle. I think guys too often, sometimes I think we're just like, oh, it's not going to work. He's a guard. I do think that seems to be what's happening with Fano. They asked him to take center snaps at the combine as well as guard snaps. I think he's probably going to be an interior lineman in the NFL. I think he probably could stick at tackle despite the arm length concerns. And he is susceptible to spins, and he really struggled against both David Bailey and Romello Height against Texas Tech. Had a tough day against Texas Tech, but I don't think he gave up really any backfield production. It was more pressures and constantly kind of heating up the quarterback. Him and Lomu both played in Utah's weird scheme this year, which neither allowed I think neither allowed a sack this year, but it's such an RPO offense, and the quarterback ran so much, and quarterback just did not hold onto the ball a lot at all. So it's hard to compare to some other tackles that we have in terms of their schemes. But just in terms of what's on film, he's quick out of his stance. He's definitely, you mentioned how good of a mover he is. He's definitely someone who gets to the second level really well, which I think part of the Fano thing with moving him from tackle is not just that people are concerned about the T-Rex, is because people watch him and they're like, man, the things he does would really blend well to being a guard or being an interior lineman in general. And I think that's true. And I think he will, if that's what he does. But I'm a little bit more bullish that he could stick outside of tackle. But yeah, I don't want to go too far in depth. We got a lot of guys to get to, but he's a guy I have number 2, and 1 through 3 for me. Honestly, 1 through 6 for me is exactly stacked in my rankings from, I think, 9 to 14 on my overall big board is just my top 6 offensive linemen. So there's not a lot separating any of my top 6 guys.
All right.
Personal preference, I should say.
Yeah, and we definitely got into that, at least for sure, with our top 3 that we've kind of switched around. I think I switched some of mine around. I think you were pretty undecided on some of yours as we were coming into the show, so a lot of preference there. But let's talk about the guy that you have number 1. You have Francis Mauigoa from Miami as number 1. He's number 3 on my board, so talk to me about Mauigoa.
It's funny. He has an 8.37, or actually, I'm sorry, 8.73 RAS. And you'd think, oh, pretty good number. If you look at the other top tackles in this class, everyone's 9+. The RAS chart might be a little bit broken. Part of that is people aren't doing certain drills that they wouldn't test well at, specifically agility drills for the offensive linemen. We've seen offensive and defensive linemen that the 3-cone has been really a good predictor for elite talent, and a lot of these guys are kind of shying away from that. But Mauigoa was a 5-star recruit. He was the top-ranked offensive tackle in the 2023 class, right in front of Caden Proctor. Every year that he started in Miami, he's gotten some recognition, honorable. I'll mention ACC in his first year, second team All ACC in his second year. Got the Jacobs blocking trophy for the top ACC blocker, consensus All-American, first team All ACC. Got a really thick, dense frame. Definitely stays square, stays controlled, good with his punch, loves to finish through the whistle. There's some Michael Orr. I always love bringing that up in our offensive lineman episode. That's like a yearly tradition. The take him to the bus scene. I think there's definitely some of that with Mauigoa. And I think there's some of that with a lot of these offensive linemen. They play with a pretty nasty edge. Which is always what you want. Rarely left the field over the past 3 seasons, started all 42 games. When you're looking at the negatives, probably only average foot speed for a tackle. Something that I didn't notice too much, but I've seen written in scouting reports, and one of my buddies who follows the draft also kind of mentioned this. He ends up on the ground too much, which is always something you don't want to see from a big, beefy offensive lineman. But I will say I didn't notice that quite as much as other people seem to have. And the biggest concern, and it's the same thing with Fano, and it's like a broken record sometimes with the last couple of years of offensive linemen, mediocre arm length, which shows when attempting to stay attached in space. Do you have the percentile on that? I didn't take that down.
19th percentile arm length.
Yeah,
33.25-inch arms.
It's not close to the Fano situation. It's a lot more tenable, but obviously still not close to ideal either. So also it's something else. I generally don't care about this, but all of his snaps came at right tackle. So some people out there would say, if you're drafting him, he's going to be a right tackle. Don't plan on him being a left. I know that it's hard, and I know Eagles fans specifically have Andre Dillard memories of how that went. But I think there's also plenty of examples of guys switching sides from college to pros. So it's not something that I'd be concerned about. He is a Freaks List alum. So shout out to Bruce Feldman. And it's funny, he's the least freaky, I guess, testing-wise of any of these offensive linemen, which just shows that these offensive linemen are just insanely athletic nowadays.
Yeah, he's a guy that I projected to the interior. When you look at his short arms and he's got sluggish lateral agility, I think he's just a guy that's most likely where he's going to land, where he's never played, right? That's not true. He has 10 snaps at right guard, so he's got some experience at right guard. Maybe that's where he ends up, but I think he projects best as an interior player. I mean, he's got that profile, good run blocker, dense frame. He's powerful, but he's got some problems out in space, and he's got shorter arms. So and that's why he ended up at number 3 for me, a little bit down. It's because I do feel pretty sure that he's going to end up on the interior, and it's just something he's never played, so it's pure projection. But I mean, you covered him well. That's kind of the concerns with him. It'll be really interesting to see how teams view some of these guys and where they end up settling out.
Yeah, it's something where earlier in the process, I think I actually had Mauigoa around 6 or 7 overall. Slowly but surely kind of bumped a couple guys up. I thought there was a little bit more of a gap from Mauigoa to the rest of the linemen, and lately when I've dove back in and kind of dove further, you wonder, it's one of those things where I'm chasing upside, it feels like, because I'm a little bit more sure that he can stay outside at tackle. Fano and Ioane are, in my opinion, a lot safer bets just overall, because I think that they're locks to be good inside. And we'll get to Ioane in a second. I think there's a chance I'm too low on him. But I I've decided that there's just not a big tier gap anywhere among these top 6 O-linemen. For me, it just depends on, are you looking for a home run swing in terms of a guy who you think has a chance to be an All-Pro? Are you looking for, a rock solid starting tackle? Not that Blake Miller is kind of what comes to my mind. I don't think there's a ton of upside, even though he tested really well with Blake Miller, but I think that he's kind of a pretty sure thing to at least be a solid player. But there's guys like Ahina Chor and Freeling and other guys who have such high upside. You're always kind of parsing that out. And when it's this close, it's kind of personal preference. I was doing my usual mock of what I would do if I was every GM thing. And I found myself drafting the O-lineman out of order for certain teams, depending on, where their situation was. So you could, in 2 days, I might have this top 3 completely different.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep rolling. You mentioned Ioane. Let's talk about him. He's number 2 for me. He's number 3 for you. I'll try the first name here. Liva Venga Ioane out of Penn State.
Yeah. And it's funny because everybody's been going Vega Ioane, but I just found out in the Beast, again, shout out to Dane Brugler, it's Venga. So even the shortened thing is misleading because you read it and it's Vega, but it's Venga. So Venga Ioane is the shortened version, but I'm not even going to try the version you just did.
Yeah, I'm pretty big on hey, we should learn how to say these guys' names. This year is a challenge. There's some O-line names that are out there, but Ioane out of Penn State, 3-star recruit. He was a latecomer to football. He didn't play football until he was in high school, and then one of his seasons was interrupted by COVID. So came in as a raw player, committed to Penn State in 2022, and he redshirted. He only started 5 games in 2023, but he played 600 snaps that season. And then he started in his final 2 years, and in 2025, he was a second-team All-American. He is 6'4", 320 pounds, 32 3/4-inch arms, which is 26th percentile on the interior. He's 22 years old. Over the course of his career, he played 300 snaps at right guard, had a 99.3 pass block efficiency grade, and 1 penalty. I think he's the cleanest projection out of these top 3 because he was an interior player, he's going to be an interior player, and he's played both sides, although he's obviously played a lot more at left guard. But he takes on rushers with a wide base, strong anchor, powerful hands, like exactly what you would want from a left guard. He uses his hands independently to strike at pass rushers so he can regain leverage when they start to turn him. He's a mauler in the run game. He's athletic enough to be used as a puller. I think he keeps his head on a swivel and he sorts out things really well. Gap exchanges, stunts, pass rush games. He does a good job passing those things off. He didn't do athletic testing at the combine, but he's not the most explosive athlete. But he is smooth. He lacks that first step explosion, which limits his ability to reach block, which I'm going to mention that a few times. So just for the uninitiated, reach block is when you're trying to jump across the face. So say the guy's lined up on your inside shoulder and you're trying to jump across his face and seal him out. That's a reach block. You're having to reach a gap to get there. He's going to struggle to reach block. He's going to struggle. You can use him as a puller, but you don't want to pull him more than a gap or maybe 2 because he's not a super explosive athlete. But he is smooth. I do think he can get off balance when he's out in space trying to target, a moving target. So again, that's not his strength, but he can do it a little bit. Once he loses the edge in pass protection, he does struggle to recover. But, and you'll hear offensive line people talk about this with people, the goal is to lose slow, right? You want to buy time. Once he starts to lose the edge, he loses fast. And so he doesn't do a very good job of adjusting once he's initially beat. But I have a first-round grade on him. It feels like he's the safe pick out of these top 3 we've talked about because his traits match the position that he has played in college, and that gives him a bit of a leg up if it does give him a bit of a lower ceiling. So I've got him at number 2 overall. You've got him at number 3 overall. What else do you have on Ioane?
This will not get across well, especially to the podcast listeners. I've already showed my papers already. A lot of green, not a lot of else going on. Not a lot of negative highlighting on my I keep wanting to say Ioane report here. It's just he's an incredibly safe prospect. He's one of the top 5 to 7 safest prospects in the draft. If you're making bets on guys who are likely to be all pro, I think Ioane has to be high on that list in the draft just based on the position. You have to question how much that matters and the value of that in terms of what he will be paid after his first contract and if a team will want to stick with him. Guard's different than center, but we just saw the whole Ravens Linderbaum fiasco where how could that pick have went better, and you don't pay him to keep him around. And I get it. I mean, he got so much money, but a little bit of a disaster to let that happen. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned all of it. I don't have too much more to say. I think he's an incredibly safe prospect. I think there's almost no scenario that he's not a good starter in the NFL.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep rolling then. Let's go to your number 4. It's all the way down at number 9 for me. I think we're quite far apart on this guy. Talk to me about Max Iheanacho from Arizona State.
I'm in love. I'm in love with this guy. I have him number 12 overall. Believe in the athleticism. He's got a 9.86 relative athletic score. Comfortably wears 325 pounds at 6'6". Logan Fano, who we mentioned earlier, Spencer's brother, called him the best blocker that he faced in 2025. He's got fast hands, functional length. I thought he made really clear improvements in technique, a really rangy mover, worked hard to develop his body, which he put on weight over the last couple of years. He's durable, finished his career with 28 straight starts, and that's what I wanted to get to. I kind of look at two prospects pretty similarly to me, and it's Max Iheanacho and it's Monroe Freeling, because of the fact that both are pretty limited in their experience, I guess, in different ways. Because Monroe Freeling only has, I want to make sure that I'm getting the exact number correct here, but Monroe Freeling, I want to get the exact number of starts. 18 starts and only 1 full year starting on the outside. And I feel because Max Iheanacho came to football late, he played soccer growing up and he played basketball at the prep level. He didn't play football until 2021 when his AAU coach suggested he give it a chance. And he's picked it up incredibly well to the point where he just started 3 or 2.5 years at Arizona State. And I feel like people are acting like he played 1 year. And I get it. He came late to football. He was raw. He developed. But when you look at what he was able to do as a pretty raw prospect, I think it only makes me, I feel like I'm usually someone who doesn't love he's late to football. That's a bonus. Like, I kind of think that maybe playing football your whole life helps. In this scenario, I think it is great because I love the tape. I think the tape that you see, he had 0 sacks allowed this year, 8 on 860 snaps. And that's his really 4th year playing football competitively. Like, I think with him, I do understand it as a positive. He has an edge out there. He allegedly models his game after Penei Sewell. This is a guy who I believe in. Are there things he needs to improve on? Sure. He's definitely a little raw. He's definitely a little upright. He needs to improve his punch. He only played right tackle and only repped at right tackle during the week of the Senior Bowl. So I do think that there are things to be concerned about. Brugler said he might require a redshirt year. I don't know if I agree for that. I don't know if I agree that he needs a redshirt year. It might help. He did get flagged 6 times for holding in 2025. So there's some technique things you want to kind of work with him on and improve on, but not a single sack allowed in his 3rd year playing college football, or competitively his 4th year playing football overall. So he's a guy I've fallen in love with in this process. And I feel like he's a guy who feels like a Howie guy a little bit in terms of the upside swing of it, but we'll see. I've been surprised at the meteoric. There was a time where Freeling and Iheanacho, and part of why I brought it up, I think Freeling's more raw than Iheanacho right now, personally. I think there's a little bit more to be excited about with Iheanacho. But Freeling's had this meteoric rise since the combine because he had a 9.99 9.99 relative athletic score. Max had a 9.86, and I feel like he's fallen since the combine. And I don't really get that. I don't understand why one has risen and one has fallen. But Max is a guy who very much should be in play for the Eagles at 23. In my opinion, he's my number 12 player.
Yeah, I'm quite a bit lower on Max. I have a 3rd round grade on him.
Wow.
I think, so he's got a lot of traits and potential. I think he's going to have to be brought along slowly. That makes him a good fit for a team like the Eagles. I mean, especially in a world of yesteryear where Jeff Stoutland was still your offensive line coach, but a guy that's not going to come in and start right away. I mean, tons of athleticism. He's got range in the run game. He's been a work in progress, as you would understand, but his technique and his play strength has improved year over year. He's been durable. There's just still a lot of rawness there. Like, I think it's obvious when you look at his technique. That's my concern, is just how much development there still has to be in his technique for him to work at the NFL level. And I certainly think it's possible. That's just not the guy I want to draft I want to be drafting in the first round. I want to get him on day 2 when I've already got a right tackle for another year or two, so I can bring him along slowly. So I think I question his ability to step in as a rookie in the NFL and maybe as a second-year player. I think he's got all of the tools and traits. I think he's got that potential, but I think it's going to take some time for him. And so that's why I've got him quite a bit lower than you do. But I definitely get the intrigue. And I think in the right situation, he could be a good player a couple years down the road. I think it's just going to take a little while.
I'm shocked to hear third round. That's shocking.
Yeah, he's.
I have a guy I'm out on who's shocking as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned Monroe Freeling, so that's the next guy for me. He's number 4 for me.
And I like Freeling, by the way. I have him 6 on here, and I have him 14th overall. I didn't want to make it sound like, for a lot of the similar reasons, I like Ihanator, but I didn't want to make it sound like I hated the guy.
Yeah, and I mentioned, this is the end of the scouting report. I'll just do my scheme fit round first here because it goes into this conversation. I've got a first round grade on Freeling. I said he's a left tackle with great athletic traits, but less refinement than some others in this class. And so there's similar concerns. I just have a lot less concern-wise with Freeling. So he's a 4-star recruit who committed to Georgia, played sparingly as a freshman. And then the beginning of his sophomore season, before he played the final 5 games of his sophomore year at left tackle, and then he was a full-time starter at left tackle in 2025, was second-team All-SEC. So he's started a season and a half at Georgia, basically. He is 6'7", which is 90th percentile, 315 pounds, 56th percentile, 74th percentile arm length, 95th percentile 40. 93rd percentile vertical. He's 21 and 3/4 years old. And again, he's played 1,100 snaps at left tackle, 250 snaps at right tackle, 99.2 pass block efficiency grade, 2 penalties in 2025. So Freeling is a mountain of a man, right? He's tall. He's got long arms. He has packed on weight to fill out his frame over his time at Georgia. And he's an outstanding athlete. You mentioned that with him and with Max, both good athletes. Freeling has speed, quickness, agility, body control, you name it, he's got it. He does a good job of absorbing power and then dropping his hips to anchor. He's a powerful blocker in the run game, does a good job climbing to the second level on combo blocks, and I think he's got heavy hands as a pass blocker. He does a good job of jolting guys back. But, and you see this a lot with guys that are taller, he stays too upright in his pass sets. So he gives ground and then drops his hips and anchors. He could decrease the amount of ground that he gives against power if he just played with a lower center of gravity. And that's often a struggle for these taller guys that tackle. I think he stops moving his feet at times and gets beat in pass sets. And he's inconsistent targeting guys out in space. So you can use him as a puller, you can get him to the second level, but his spatial awareness, his targeting is sometimes not great once he's out there. And then I think he allows defenders into his chest at times and then loses leverage on them. Again, I have an end of the first round grade on Freeling. I said he's a left tackle, although he's played 250 snaps at right tackle. So he's got a little bit of experience there. But I think he's a tackle. He's not a guy that's going to kick into guard. He's got great athletic traits. But by virtue of being a 1.5-year starter, he's got less refinement than most of the other guys in this class. And I think that should be taken into account by teams.
Yeah, he's a home run swing for sure. Again, I look at him and Max as part of the same bucket in terms of the upside and maybe not guys you want to rely on right away. But I find I think a lot of people are like, Max is really raw. I find myself doing that with Freeling. I think he's so upright to the point where it feels like once he's upright and moving back, guys are just able to quickly make a move inside or go around him with it seems like he's just not able to adjust to kind of quick, twitchy movement from off the edge. But there is some injury issues out there, not a ton. He had a left ankle issue last year, and he played through a shoulder injury where he got brutalized against Notre Dame, which is maybe something that I am factoring in that bowl game, because I definitely remember Freeling really struggling in that Notre Dame game. But he was playing hurt, it's a fairness to him, because he had a shoulder surgery right after that. But a lot of it is just he's really green to me, only the one full year as a starter. He did have 600 snaps the year before, but it's almost 2 years as a starter. But I found it pretty green. Something I do really like about Freeling is that he was able to put on 75 pounds over the last 5 years, and he's still maintained elite next-level athleticism. That's a really, really strong positive, outside of all the stuff Shane mentioned.
Yeah. All right, well, let's keep moving on. Mark, let's get to your number 5. This is a guy we're a little closer on. He's number 6 for me. Talk to me about Caleb Lomu.
Caleb Lomu, he's a guy who I kind of expected to be a little bit higher in the process, and I feel like he doesn't have a lot of these other guys, even with guys who, like Ihonachor, has doubters. There's people who staunchly believe in him. I know Nate Tice is a big Max guy, and a lot of these guys have staunch believers. I don't know if Lomu has shooters like that, as the kids would say. I don't know if people are like, I don't know if Caleb Lomu has a devout fan base that defends him, but I really like Lomu. I think we were talking about guys who have really strong upside, and then guys who are maybe more sure things, more of a safe bet. That's how I look at Lomu. I think Lomu is a pretty sure thing, a pretty safe bet. He was a 4-star recruit coming into college, played obviously across from Spencer Fano. And when he got to school, they actually moved Fano to the other side to kind of put Lomu in his most comfortable position. He's spry out of his stance, above average lateral quickness, which allows him to recover well from redirecting, has good body control, fantastic range, stays square, and he's very durable. Started 24 games over the last 2 years, no injury issues, at least that I am aware of. Similar to Fano, he did struggle against Texas Tech, which had 2 guys who were going to get drafted probably in the first, 70, 80 picks. One guy was going to get drafted potentially second overall. He definitely doesn't play that strong or play that nasty, is something I would say with Lomu. He's not nasty the way some of these other guys are. I would never make the Michael Orr comparison with Lomu, but I think he's solid, and I think he's dependable. Didn't give up a single sack this year. He does have inconsistent punch timing, but it didn't seem to hurt him all that much. Got flagged for holding 3 times in 2025, which I feel like if you play like close to 1,000 snaps, like that's fine. Like 3 holding flags, I think is probably a normal amount. Doesn't have much experience besides left tackle, which I got to be honest, I'm in a group chat that I feel like I referenced. We're going to be having someone on from that group chat who I talked about that last week. The Chargers beat reporter Alex Insdorf, who we're going to do some draft stuff with. And a lot of those guys in that chat that I'm in are like, oh, the Eagles can't take Lomu. He's only a left tackle. He can't switch over. I feel like I've only ever heard that reversed. I feel like I've only ever heard like the right tackle can't switch to left. And I know it should theoretically be I just can't ever remember a situation where we're talking about a college guy like, well, he only played left tackle. And it's like, well, that's pretty valuable. I don't know. Maybe I'm being dumb about that. Yeah, he's a guy who I've been a little bit higher than consensus on. I have him at 13 overall. And I think on most boards that you see him, he's in kind of that 20 to 30 range.
Yeah, I've got a 2nd round grade on Lomu.
Real quick, now that we're finished, how many 1st round grades did you end up with? Did you tally it out? If not,
ask me that question in a minute, and I can count them up. So I'm not counting on the air here, but yeah, I'll count that next time you're giving us a rundown on a prospect here.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think Lomu's he's a high level athlete. Looks great moving in space. Has good body control, especially when he's in his pass sets. Good lateral agility. One of the things I think he is best at is just waiting, like being patient, letting a pass rusher tip their hand, and then you just counter it. You can use him on reach blocks. You can use him as a puller. He doesn't have like that finisher trait like you kind of talked about in the run game. And I think he needs to add functional straight. He loses ground too easily against power rushers, and he can lose one-on-one blocks in the run game too. So I think he's got the great athleticism. He needs to develop more strength to go along with that athletic ability. But yeah, I got a second round grade on him. And like you said, he's probably going to fall in like that 20 to 30 range for me, for sure. So let's go to, that was your number 5, my number 6. Let's go to my number 5. I think he's outside of your top 10 here. This is the other guy you mentioned that we have a disagreement on. It's Kadyn Proctor out of Alabama. So Kadyn Proctor was a 5-star recruit. He was a top 10 recruit nationally who committed to Alabama in 2023. He actually transferred to Iowa, but then he came back to Alabama after a couple of months. So if you go look at his chart, all of his seasons are at Alabama. He did briefly transfer. So he was a 3-year starter at left tackle, all SEC freshman in 2023, first team All-American in 2025. He's 6'6", 352 pounds. That's 97th percentile weight for a tackle, 23rd percentile arm length, 54th percentile 40 time, 90th percentile vertical, 58th percentile bench press. He's just under 21 years old. Played 2,100 snaps at left tackle over the course of his time at Alabama. Has a 97.9 pass block efficiency grade and only 2 penalties in 2025. I mean, he is a mountain of a man, right? 74th percentile height, 97th percentile weight. He's tall. He carries his weight well, still has good explosiveness and lateral range to get out to wide alignment rushers. 0 holding penalties over his final 18 starts at Alabama. He controls defenders really well once he latches on with strong hands. He's got a good anchor in the pass game. He generates displacement in the run game. I do think he's inconsistent in his pass sets. He doesn't always get wide enough or deep enough to not have to play catch up. And his hands do need some work. His punch timing isn't the best. Defenders can get into his chest at times. He does have that shorter arm length, which gives him a smaller margin for error there. He struggles working off the combination blocks to the second level. I think it's just like a timing and a feel thing, when to release and get up to the second level. Like I mentioned this before with other taller guys, but he plays a little too upright. He also had a shoulder surgery in 2024, which I'm sure teams will want to do medical checks on. However, I mean, he bounced back off of that and was first team All-American in 2025. So I gave him a second round grade. I said he's a physically imposing left tackle who needs some technical refinement to maximize his potential. So I don't think I'm as in on him as some people are that think he's like a slam dunk first round pick, but I've got a solid second round grade on him.
I'm out. More than any player in this draft, I'm out. He's probably like my number 1. We have helmet sticker guys. What's the opposite? I don't know what the opposite is. We need to come up with a name for that. But he's my, what's the draft day? Vontae Mack, no matter, I don't know if that's his name. I think it's Vontae Mack. Mack, no matter what. What's Kadyn Proctor, under no circumstances would be my new. I'm just out. There's certain guys who, this is part of the problem with being in Alabama is that you're in such a spotlight. I've gotten to watch so many games live. It's not me going back and catching tape. It's a little bit more in depth, and he's just a guy who I think has no chance at sticking a tackle. I think the feet I don't think it's going to work against faster edge rushers, and he has a lot of detractors. There's a lot of people who think similarly to me. I don't think there's anybody who, like me, is going to put him outside of their top 75. Most people, when they're out on him, put him in like the 40s or 50s. He will have a lot of people who are totally out on him, but the NFL seems to be totally in on him. And he's training with Duke Manyweather, who is like the offensive line guru prospect guy who people go to, and he does a lot of PR work for these guys. He's best friends with like Baldinger and Glazer and a couple of these guys who I think he's helping his stock a lot in the draft process. He had some brutal games. There's clips of Zion Young from Missouri holding him off with one arm. And it's like, you're 6'7", 300, however many pounds. He was 400 pounds as a freshman, by the way. He ballooned up to 400 and had to lose that down. This is dumb to bring up because he's played 2 years since it. His 2023 tape is like some of the worst you'll ever see in the history of the sport. He gave up 12 sacks. he was so bad, and he's gotten a lot better. I'll give him a lot of credit. He's just not a guy who I think when he's went up against the best prospects in the sport, he's struggled. He gets pushed around frequently because he's not very bendy. I think when he's not able to just maul people by being bigger than them, that's going to be an even bigger problem. And then the other thing is, like, a lot of people are doing they think he can move inside thing. I think he might, like, I know it worked with Becton, but generally, like, and it only worked for 9 months.
Yeah.
I think generally with those types of guys that are so big, it needs to work at tackle, because I think it's better to be compact and able to kind of be the low man in those situations on the inside more often, to me, at least. And at least in the way that he plays, I think it's going to have to be at tackle, and I don't think he's got much of a chance at tackle. So I'm just out. I have him in my top 100. To be honest, I probably shouldn't have him in it with the way that I feel about him. Like, there's probably guys in my 80s or 90s who are ranked 100 spots lower on most boards, but I have a little bit more optimism for. I don't see it. There's only like 2 or 3 guys this year who I think are the consensus top like 40 who I'm just like, I'm good, I'll pass. And it's him, it's Ty Simpson, and it's Kristen Miller. I don't know if I'm saying the first name right. Chris, yeah. And then T-E-N is his name, from Georgia, defensive tackle. But those are the 3 names, really. Outside of that, I don't think there's anybody that's in the consensus top 50 who I'm totally out on.
It's interesting that, like, I mean, he was freshman all SEC in 2023 while giving up 11 sacks or whatever it was.
I think there's not a lot of freshmen playing tackle in the SEC.
Yeah, I was going to say it's one of 2 things. There's not many freshmen playing, or it's that top 10 recruit doing a lot of the heavy lifting for name recognition early on. Because, yeah, freshman year, it's not very good.
And 2024 is not that much. It's better than 2023. But there's a lot of problems with 2024. He did take steps in 2025, but he did have some games again in 2025 that are like, man, there's still some concerning stuff in there. Oklahoma really killed him. Our Mason Thomas and a couple of the other guys rotating in. He had a really rough day against Oklahoma. Like I said, thought he had a pretty rough day against Zion Young. And yeah, I'm not a fan. I think I made that clear.
You don't wash your jersey during a win streak. You don't switch seats when your team's up big. And you definitely don't shave during the playoffs. When things are working, you don't change them. That's why when you drink Jägermeister, you drink it ice cold. Anything else? Well, that'd just be bad luck. Drink it cold, or don't drink it at all. Jägermeister. Damn, that's cold. Drink responsibly. Jägermeister liqueur, 35% alcohol by volume. Imported by Mast Jägermeister, U.S. White Plains, New York.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man, an 8-episode series, now streaming on Disney+.
A superhero remake, not exactly what we'd expect from an Oscar-winning director.
Action! Simon Williams, audition for Wonder Man.
I'm gonna need you to sign this, assuming you don't have superpowers.
I'll never work again if anyone found out.
My lips are sealed.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man. All 8 episodes now streaming, only on Disney+.
Amazon presents Jeff versus Taco Truck Salsa. Whether it's Verde, Roja, or the orange one. For Jeff, trying any salsa is like playing Russian roulette with a flamethrower. Luckily, Jeff saved with Amazon and stocked up on antacids, ginger tea, and milk. Habanero? More like habanero, yes. Save the everyday with Amazon.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
All right, well, let's keep rolling here. Let's go to my number 7. He is number 9 for you. It is Blake Miller out of Clemson. Blake Miller's 4-star recruit, committed to Clemson, 4-year starter at right tackle. So we talk about guys that are raw. He's been a 4-year starter. Freshman All-American in 2022, first-team All-Conference in 2024 and 2025. Granted, that conference is the ACC, so do with that what you will. He was also All-ACC academic team, so smart guy, solid player. 6'6", 317 pounds, 59th percentile arm length. You know it's a weird class when you're like, man, this guy's got long arms because he's like 59th percentile, but 86th percentile 40, 87th percentile vertical, 90th percentile broad jump, 91st percentile bench press. He's 22.2 years old come draft night, played 3,263 snaps at right tackle. And hey, if you want positional versatility, he played 101 snaps at left tackle, had 5 penalties in 2025. He's got good size, length, and athleticism. None of them are anything to write home about in terms of being elite, but he's solid in all of those areas. And you can't say that about a lot of these guys. You got a lot of athletic guys with short arms. You got some big guys that aren't very athletic. He's solid in all of those areas, which I think is noteworthy in this class. Absorbs contact and pass protection with a wide base, does a good job of sinking his hips to anchor against power while still maintaining good balance. Sometimes you'll see guys that they either don't sink the hips and they get walked back, like we've talked about with some of these guys. Some of them sink the hips, but they get off balance and they can get torqued out of the way. He does a good job of finding that middle ground. He generates displacement in the run game. He's got heavy hands, good leg drive, has the athleticism to be used as a puller, and again, tons of experience. He started 54 games over his 4-year career at Clemson. I do think he gets too upright when he absorbs contact and pass protection, which can lead to him getting out-leveraged. His punch timing is a little late at times, and he lets defenders get into his chest. And I do think savvy pass rushers can sort of manipulate him into leaning a little bit and then cut across his face to get to the quarterback. But I gave him a 2nd-round grade. If you're looking for a right tackle, he's a pretty solid pick.
He's a funny case. Blake Miller, I have him 9th, and just so people know, I have him in my top 30. So I have 9 O-linemen in my top 30. But he's a guy who checks every box I could really want. Like, he has 4 years as a starter, so much experience. He's very durable, most consecutive starts by a non-specialist in Clemson history, and set the record for snaps played. And he's got the longer arm, not long arms, like you said, but in this class, 59th percentile, it might as well be 95th percentile arms. And so he's got long arms. He had pretty good production in terms of, if you look at the allowed sacks and all the intangibles that the scouts put out are very positive. When I watch the tape, I'm kind of just like, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm just not blown away or wowed in any way by Miller, but he checks all the boxes. I don't know. So I have him 9th, have him in my top 30. Given the value of offensive linemen, I think he should probably go in the first round. I don't have a 1st-round grade on him. I have a 2nd-round grade on him, but I have him in my top 32. Weird evaluation for me. I like him, don't love him, but then I like reading about him more than watching him, I guess, if that's.
All right. Well, let's go to your number 7. Number 10 on my board, Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon. Before you start off, 23 1st-round grades is what I ended up with.
I have the exact same number.
All right.
I have 23 as well. That's funny. Pregnon is a guy who we see this like every year, I feel like, with one highly ranked interior offensive lineman that just probably should have done anything except go to the combine, because Pregnon did not have a good trip to the wait. Time out. Wrote down the wrong notes for the wrong guy. Pregnon did have a good trip to the combine, 9.16 relative athletic score, but the size is a little underwhelming. There's some stuff that he has kind of fallen in this process. Wow, I'm shocked. I didn't write down the guard RAS on my notes here. I almost swore I remembered the RAS score being a little bit lower because there's a lot of yellow on the chart, but the green is so green on the vertical and the broad. It's like, he's so high on the vertical and broad that
97th percentile vertical, 92nd percentile broad jump.
He's not above 76th percentile in anything else. He's below average in speed, really below average in the shuttle, and then height and weight are.
I mean, his 40 was 68th percentile.
That's fair. I guess I'm comparing it to the rest of the offensive linemen. I'm used to seeing all the green on the RAS charts this year. But what I was meaning to say, but I actually meant to turn that around into a positive. I'm the one who has him higher here. But he's a tape. I think he's a tape guy for me. He's a guy who started 51 games in the last 4 years. And if you want to take the Wyoming year out where he was a freshman All-American, that's fine. He started 40 games in the Big Ten over the last 3 years. So a ton of experience. He only committed one penalty in 2025. It was a false start. Competes with a finishing demeanor. Definitely will take you off your feet. And he has heaviness in his hands to do that. Freaky weight room numbers. Very durable, like I said, with the 40 star. But like I said before, I do think he is a mediocre athlete, and he's an older prospect is probably one of the bigger kind of knocks against him. 25-year-old rookie. Like we talked about this before, but I'm generally more forgiving to that in general. If you get 5 or 6 good years out of a pick, generally outside of the top 10 to 15, I think that's fine. He was only at Oregon for 1 year, transferred in from USC and from Wyoming before that. And his year at Oregon, he was a key reason that they were finalists for the offensive line of the year across the country. For me, he checks all the boxes for size, power, competitiveness. There's a comparison that Dane made that I actually had written in my notes already for Osiris Torrance, but more kind of explosive. You look at those explosion rankings. Osiris Torrance did not have a good combine. Maybe that's why I got that confused in my head, because I think I have that RAS chart somewhere in my notes. Yeah, Pregnon is a guy who I'm a little bit higher on than consensus. I have him in I think it's 25 or 26, something in that range. Teams like the Chargers, who desperately need interior O-line, I know Alex will be on with us next week. I think he thinks Pregnon and DeSantis, the Chargers will look at as being a little bit of a reach for up at 21, where they're picking, or 22, I believe, 21 or 22. But I actually think either Pregnon or DeSantis would be great picks for the Chargers.
Yeah, I've got him a little lower. I've got a 3rd round grade on Pregnon. I think I evaluate him much the same as you do. I just don't value him the same as you do. And maybe I weigh in the older prospect more. I don't think he's got good range as a run blocker. I think he's kind of a mediocre athlete in terms of movement skills, contrary to what the RAS says, at which you get that at times with these guys. But yeah, he gets off balance and can lose leverage when he's engaged with a pass rusher. He's kind of got poor punch timing, but he is very disciplined. Only one penalty last year. He started 40 consecutive games. He's a powerful player with a strong anchor and pass protection. So I see the appeal. I would not want to be the team taking him in the 1st round, but I fully expect him to go in like the 2nd.
Yeah, I think he's going to be probably an early 2nd, if I had to guess.
All right, let's keep rolling. We both have this guy at number 8, Chase Bisontis out of Texas A&M. You mentioned him a few minutes ago. 4-star recruit. He committed to Texas A&M in 2023. After his head coach and his O-line coach were fired, he entered the portal, but he decided ultimately to return to Texas A&M, and so he only played one place his whole career. He is 6'5", 318 pounds, 68th percentile arm length, 93rd percentile 40, 85th percentile 3-cone, 74th percentile bench press, just shy of 22 years old. Played 1,200 snaps at left guard, 540 snaps at right tackle, which is interesting. So he's one of very few guys that have played both tackle and interior and on both sides, left guard, right tackle. He did commit 8 penalties in 2025. Now, I'll say this. He is one of 6 combine prospects that competed in every drill. And that might become my new, he didn't transfer thing. I've jokingly, tongue-in-cheek, talked about loyal players that don't play at several different schools. I might start talking about guys that aren't scared to compete in combine drills at some point, because it's getting a little ridiculous how we're gaming the system, and it kind of forces you to look into that. But he competed in every drill, and I think he was good to really good in every drill. He's got quick feet, able to be weaponized in the run game on kick-out blocks and as a puller. He's a strong player with a mean streak. He can generate displacement in the run game. He's got good hands and pass protection. I do think he tends to lunge for contact out of his... Well, he does one of two things in his pass sets. He either will lunge for contact and get off balance, or he sits back too far, too long, and he gives up his chest. Needs to find that middle ground a little more consistently. And then he is a high penalty player. He's got 19 penalties in his career. 8 of those were in 2025, 4 false starts, 3 holds, 1 unsportsmanlike conduct. So that's a concern. But overall, I put a second-round grade on him. I think he will be a good fit as a run-blocking left guard in the league.
Yeah, Bisontis is a guy who, North Jersey native, shouts out to Chase Bisontis. Blue-collar mentality. I wanted to throw this in because longtime strength and conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt, who, by the way, is like a college football legend. He was at LSU for 30 years, and Brian Kelly he was there through every coach. Every LSU coach kept him as their strength and conditioning guy, and everybody who goes to LSU, and especially the D-line and O-line guys, rave about him and talk about how he's the best. He was their Stoutland for 30 years, basically, except strength and conditioning instead of a line coach. And then Brian Kelly showed up on campus and was like, I don't get it. You're gone. See ya. And fired him. He went to Texas A&M and immediately totally revamped their trenches. And they've had a ton of guys drafted in the last couple of years and have a bunch of, literally, Chase Bisontis is a good example. And Tommy Moffitt called him the strongest collegiate football player I have ever coached. So I don't think that means nothing. And like you said, I love that he competed in every combine drill. We are losing recipes when it comes to the combine, and I'm glad for Chase Bisontis.
I get that reference.
Yeah. I'm glad for Chase Bisontis to be able to try to fix that. Did get a lot of penalties. I think you mentioned that, but a lot of penalties, and it definitely is something he has to clean up. So Bisontis and Pregnon are linked together in my rankings. I think Pregnon might be a little bit more solid. Well, Bisontis probably a little bit more upside.
Yeah. All right. That completes my top 10, but you've got one guy left, Mark. Talk to us about number 10 on your list.
Yeah, for sure. We did have comments that you just replied to. There is an Eagles bar in Tokyo. I have seen that. I've seen that before. So if you are in Tokyo, go hit up the Eagles bar. My number 10 guy is Jennings Dunker from Iowa. And by the way, huge drop off from my number 9 to my number 10 guy. My number 9 guy, let me get this exactly right, is Blake Miller. He is ranked 3rd. Jennings Dunker is ranked 65th. So there is a big gap for me from my number 9 guy to my number 10. He's a 3rd round grade, whereas Blake Miller, I think, should go in the 1st round, even if I have a 2nd round grade on him. And Jennings Dunker, what am I going to say about an Iowa offensive lineman, Shane? He was a champion wrestler.
Corn-fed Iowa Hawkeye.
Iowa develops wrestlers who become stud offensive linemen. I went through all the O-line looking for the word wrestling because I love when offensive linemen have a wrestling background. We've seen, I don't know if you've seen some of the clips. I think last year, I know they went viral. It was Tristan Wirfs, and there was this tournament, I guess, in like 5 or 6, whatever, how many ever years ago in Iowa high school wrestling. And it was 6 of the best offensive linemen in the sport. It was Tyler Linderbaum and Tristan Wirfs and a bunch of these guys competing in some Iowa high school wrestling tournament. And it reminded me of that, reading about Dunker. He's a guy who only weighed 180 pounds as a high school freshman and obviously has beefed himself up to 314 pounds in, I guess, about 6 or 7 years there. A multi-sport athlete, lettered in baseball, wrestling, and track alongside of football. Injuries did derail his first couple years on campus at Iowa, but he eventually became a starter. He started 38 games, 37 at right tackle over the last 3 years. Second team All Big Ten in 2024, third team All Big Ten in 2025. He was a 4-time academic All Big Ten guy. Fair, stout frame, powerful in the run game, relies on upper body strength to redirect you in the run game. Really high football IQ. I think he's a smart blocker. And then in terms of the negative, I said earlier, there's a guy who I think it was Maui Goa, who I said, people said he spends too much time on the ground, but I didn't really see it. Dunker spends too much time on the ground, and I did see it. That was one where I did see him get knocked over more than you'd like. He's frequently jarred on his heels and put in reverse. He's a guy who I'm not sure what I think he is in the NFL. He played mostly tackle. Seems like people are almost, I don't know if you probably don't have his spider chart pulled up because you didn't have him in your top 10, but if you could find the arm length for him, I'm curious what it is. He's a guy who I think could stick at tackle, but I also do understand why people would want to see him in the run game, powerful in the run game, has pop in his hands, large hands for the run game, can get to the second level. So I do understand people wanting to move him, but maybe he's someone who has some flexibility or versatility, and that can be a positive as well. Maybe he's someone who's not just one position.
He has 33.5-inch arms.
Might as well have the 100th percentile in this class. So I think he could stick, though. I think he could stick as a tackle. I know Brugler listed him as a guard, and other guys have listed him as a guard. What do you think, Shane? I don't know if you dove into Dunker because he wasn't on your board, but
yeah, I didn't dive into him too much. He was on a list of guys for me to get to that I just ran out of time for, to be honest. So he's still one that I want to get eyes on before the draft. But at his profile, I think he's a guy that probably could probably go either way. Especially when we're talking about some of these other guys that, I mean, to take it back to the top of the show, we talked about Spencer Fano and trying to let him stick outside, and his arms are 1.25 inches shorter. So but when you're talking about the arm length, like, it's important, but it's not everything. Basically, when you talk about arm length for offensive linemen, the longer their arms, the more margin for error they have in like their strike timing and stuff. If you're a technician, you perfect that, you can get away with shorter arms. And it's the same thing with a lot of positions. Like, you know, if you're talking about a cornerback that has 4.3 speed, he's got a little more margin for error to be aggressive against double moves and things than a guy that's got 4.5 speed because he can recover. It's kind of the similar thing. Arm length is the recovery speed of offensive linemen, I guess, is a good way to put that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I'll just throw it out there because I have him basically tied with Dunker for honorable mention. Keelan Rutledge could easily be on this list instead of him. And he's getting a lot more buzz than Dunker. Rutledge, I think, will go higher than Dunker. He did start 43 games at Georgia Tech. He took center snaps during Senior Bowl practices, but probably a right guard. Did well at the combine. Does have some medical stuff that needs to be cleared up, but a lot of people are really falling in love with him, and Brugler said in here that teams are falling in love with him, and he's killing the pre-draft process. So it does seem like he's a guy who maybe I don't have high enough in my top 70.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for our top 10 rankings. Real quickly, Mark, because we're already over an hour here. Eagles offensive line needs.
Get to learn all the names. They're all possible.
Yeah, is this something you think the Eagles could target in round one? I mean, I think trenches are always in play for the Eagles, given Howie's philosophy. But you look at returning all 5 starters. Lane Johnson, we've been speculating he was about done for years, but it really feels like 2026 could be his final season. Landon Dickerson's contract gets redone basically to shorten it to where, you know, maybe he's retiring in a year or two because he's certainly talked about that. You have concerns about Cam Jurgens with the back. So I do think you enter the season with all 5 starting spots filled, but beyond 2026, I think it's fair to have question marks at left guard, center, and right tackle. So is this a position you see the Eagles investing in, or
Absolutely. I know I can't look at the odds right now because I'm in Pennsylvania, but when I was in Jersey, I was looking at some of the draft odds, and they have odds out for most likely, or what position is the team going to pick with their first selection. And for Eagles, it was overwhelmingly offensive line as the favorite for what they were going to pick in the first round. I have a little bit of a hot take. I think safety's far more in play at 23 than people are acting like. I think Eagles fans just don't expect the Eagles to take a safety. I feel like they're only looking at wide receivers and offensive linemen as possibilities. The way that they've left safety wide open, I do think that's very much in play. But even having said that, I do think offensive line is the most likely route for them to take. And to be honest with you, there's not enough of a consensus at the offensive line position for me to rule out anybody. I don't think Ioane will get to 23. And I don't think they'll trade up for a guard. I don't think Fano, I shouldn't even say that. Fano could drop because of the arms. Like there could be a situation where teams just don't view him as a tackle and they view him inside and he could drop. And maybe that's a guy that Howie's willing to move up for. Maui Goa probably doesn't get there. Freeling probably doesn't get there. But and also there's buzz that Proctor might not get there. I think you should learn the names of Caleb Lomu, Blake Miller, Maxi Honachor, Chase Bizantis, Emmanuel Pregnon, Keelan Rutledge. Like, I think all of those guys are very in play. And then in round 2, you've got the kind of the Jennings Dunker tier, and Caleb Tiernan is someone who people would throw in there. I'm out on Tiernan, but he's someone that is possible. Markel Bell, another potential day 2 guy. But yeah, I do think that with one of their first 2 picks, they'll go.
Yeah. All right. So there you have it, folks. Our offensive line rankings and some thoughts on the Eagles at the position. And again, this concludes our positional rankings. So if you're interested in any position that you haven't heard us cover yet, go check the YouTube or the podcast feed. They're all there, spanning back over the last 2 months. You can get our thoughts on whomever the Eagles end up drafting, our pre-draft thoughts before maybe we start to see things through Eagles-colored glasses. But Mark, before we get out of here, do you got any final thoughts you want to leave the people with?
Final thoughts. I had a couple. I can pull this up. I have my top 100 finalized, and I'm sure I'll make moves. A couple things I noticed in my top 100. 23 DBs in the top 75, which I thought was unbelievable. Almost 1/3 of my top 75 DBs. 20 wide receivers in my top 100. Only 1 quarterback in my top 100. Only 5 running backs. Only 12 O-linemen, as I touched. So we touched on every single O-lineman in my top 100 on this show. There is nobody we left off. And only 1 tight end in my top 80. So if you want tight end, you better go get Kenyon Sadiq, who I'm also not that in love with. So just a couple notes. A lot of DBs in this draft, especially in day 2.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Thank you for joining us for episode 233 of Chalk Talk and for following along with our draft coverage throughout this offseason. The draft is coming up at end of next week. No, 2 weeks. I'm gone next week. That's why we're recording this one early. Draft is coming up in 2 weeks. Mark's going to have a show for you guys next week. There'll be a live draft show. Following the draft, we'll start to get into some of our wacky offseason topics, expansion team draft, all of those sorts of things. So if you have a show idea, something you'd like to hear us talk about, shoot it over to us on Twitter. You can follow us there. I am at Shane Half NFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. And we will catch you guys next time.